India is a tough country to crack. The current 4-hour sort of down outage that we recently had, from my nephew to a government stakeholder, everyone was calling me to find out what's going on, right?
That's very interesting that people text you when OpenAI is down. What does it really take for a dev to get hired by OpenAI?
Largest number of users for ChatGPT outside of the US are actually in India.
If there's one feature that you wish AI did, but it's not there yet, what could that be? You've spoken a lot about OpenAI and what OpenAI has been doing. Firstly, I've been a fan for like the last 3 years. I've been following OpenAI for the last 3 years. I've been following Sam. I've been following Sam for the last 8 years from YC and all that. So incredible work. OpenAI announced 12 days of product launches. I'm like 12 days of awesomeness and content. Very excited for everything that's been coming out. Personally, I love Canvas and Sora. Been waiting for that for a very long time. Loving the outputs, been experimenting with it as much as we can. I'd like to shift the focus to you. You lead public policy and partnerships for OpenAI, and you've been the first person to be hired sort of leading India in terms of as far as OpenAI is concerned. What's that been like, and what does your day-to-day really look like?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a interesting question. I actually haven't even paused to think what my day-to-day looks like, so I'm glad you
Is there a typical day?
Sorry?
Is there a typical day?
No. Every day looks very, very different, and I think that's just the beauty of being the first employee on the ground, right? I think I've been, of course, hired to do public policy and partnerships, but I see my role as just being a conduit to what's happening in India and making sure that I'm reeling a lot of what's happening here and what I'm hearing in rooms like these, reeling that back to HQ so that, people also feel the excitement and the energy that is there in India, and they're also able to make sure that that's palpable to them, because I see it every day and I see how people really want to build on our models, want to get their hands dirty, want to solve real problems. But often because, again, we're growing so much that we're not able to focus, or the teams in the US are not able to focus on everything. And I think it's really my job, I see it incumbent on myself to really sort of wave my hand and say, look, we need to spend a lot of time here and focus here. And the good thing is that, the leadership is just so committed to India. What I want to really say is that I think they're always thinking about what is there that we need to do in India. And I think they're looking to me in many ways to provide that information and intelligence on what's happening on the ground. And so therefore, I think I have a very, it's very exciting. I love it. It's a great high. And at the same time, I'm very aware that I need to be really responsible about, what happens. Because like I was saying, I think 2025 and what we do in India is going to be really foundational for the success of OpenAI. And I think we really need to get that right. And therefore, I feel like my role in making sure we get that right is fairly critical. And so, of course, there are days where I'm very excited, and then there are days that I'm very stressed because, it can obviously be, very high stakes in many ways. But because the role is so wide, I think no one day looks the same. And someone like me actually loves that. I love the chaos. I love the unpredictability. I love just being a builder and creating something from scratch. And I think the ability to do that at OpenAI is just very special. And I feel privileged to have this place and obviously have the trust of the leadership to be able to do this here.
Awesome. Is on the same lines, is that team going to expand anytime soon? I know you touched upon that a little bit over here. But if that team is going to expand, what would that look like? Is it going to be a developer-focused team where there's going to be people developing things for the Indian-centered markets? Or is that going to happen much later? What is that going to look like?
Yeah, no, great question. I think I've been thinking a lot about that for the past 1 month. In fact, I was in SF for a week, and we were just really heads down thinking about what the India strategy should look like for 2025. And I think certainly, we are going to be building a team here, but how, I think is just still yet to be figured out, because India is a tough country to crack. I think we still have, I think the largest number of users for ChatGPT outside of the US are actually in India. And that's great. And that just shows, the number of people who want to use our product and how much value we are adding to their lives. The current 4-hour sort of down outage that we recently had, from my nephew to a government stakeholder, everyone was calling me to find out what's going on, right? And my nephew, of course, because he wanted to do his homework, and a stakeholder, from a business or from a government, really asking like, what's going on?
That's very interesting that people text you when OpenAI is down.
Yeah, of course. They're like, what's the outage? What's going on? And, I was working on this project and I can't do that anymore because, ChatGPT is down. So I think it really sort of in many ways indicates the critical role that now we're playing in people's lives almost every day. And I think that's what we want to be able to do. Search is just another example of making sure that we really are integrated in people's day to day. And, I love the search product. I'd love to hear what you all think, but I feel it's fairly good in terms of the outcomes it provides. But I think just coming back to India, like I don't think the construct of what the team looks like is very clear. But I think it's certainly clear that we will build the team, and India is really going to be top of mind for us in 2025.
Good to hear that. With how generative AI has been progressing ever since like the burst of GPT like 2 years ago, I think last year was the year that text models and image models got perfected to a huge extent. This year, it's been all about video. I think next year is going to be the year that it gets really there in terms of quality. But also, the general trend that every company is sort of moving towards, especially the ones that make foundational models, is agentic workflows. Yeah. What, if you're allowed to say it, what is OpenAI doing in that direction of agentic workflows next year? What can we really expect in terms of that?
I mean, I think I gave a snapshot like around, what I shared in my presentation on like how we're thinking about it. I feel like, once you see the end of the 12 days, I think you'll get some sense on where a lot of these workflows are moving. I do feel like I think the general direction is going to be how can we empower the agent to actually obviously execute for you on your behalf, apart from just brainstorming and ideating and being your buddy and having PhD level or graduate level intelligence on your phone to actually just brainstorm with. Now, how can we actually help you go and do that, execute on that action that you want to take? And so I think that's really the direction in which we are moving. And I feel like it's going to increase productivity and efficiency to another level, much more than what we are seeing today. We're already seeing, much of the uprise on that already, but I think you will see a lot more of that happening next year. But again, I think we want to be very careful about the safety perspective, which is why we're not moving into this in a big rush. We want to make sure that, especially when it comes to financial data, right? I mean, actually executing an agent executing on your behalf on a financial transaction, what does that look like? And what are the right sets? What should the new process look like? Because it's a completely different paradigm that we're going to be working in. And so what does that really look like? I think you'll see a lot of that playing out in retail, e-commerce, a lot of these areas.
Interesting. I have one question that I'd like to ask on behalf of majority of folks over here. What does it really take for a dev to get hired by OpenAI?
Yeah. I know it's a coveted role to get, right? So for sure.
Especially today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I speak with researchers and developers and our applied team and our economic team and so many others that we have within the company, I almost feel like these are people who are not only good at or rather incredible at what they do, which is just the research, but also have so many layers to them. So you'll always find somebody who, is of course, a developer and has done this work for many, many years and really understands this and is cutting edge. And at the same time, has probably, climbed like 5 peaks around the world, is a committed hiker, is a historian and loves reading about history and doesn't mean, will quote 2 facts, but will tell you in depth on what's happening. We have people who are, Olympians, in fencing and swimming and so many other sport who are now working for OpenAI as either developers or researchers or just part of the larger team, go-to-market, global affairs. And so just to really be working in a space where everyone, every day is trying to be a better version of themselves. And I think that's just very, very infectious. And for me, I think that's the kind of environment I want to be working in. And so if you're really thinking about, joining OpenAI or thinking about what is it that, you would like to do, I feel like if you can imbibe some of these values that you have for yourselves, and are you really this person? Because everyone in this company is, one, wearing multiple hats, two, running at like 100 kilometers a day, every day, right? And so you have to really love what you do. Because if you don't, you're either going to start putting boundaries, which then will not allow you to fit in and really run with everyone else along, with you, with the team that you're with. And so you might just sort of fall back, and that's not fun. And so you really got to love what you do, but also be very, very good at it.
Right. This is the last question I have for you. If there's one feature that you wish AI did, but it's not there yet, what will that be?
Oh, that's very interesting.
Something it hasn't done yet, but maybe you think it can do?
For me, in my own personal journey, I think I often think about when there's so much efficiency and productivity, what are we really going to do with that time? Right?
Right.
It's not maybe answering your question, but that's something that's really top of mind for me, where if I'm now being able to do what I do in my workplace, what typically takes me 6 hours, I'm now able to do maybe in 2. What am I really going to spend the balance 4-5 hours in my day? What am I going to do with that time, right? And I think the human tendency is to say, I will maybe do another more. I will have another startup. I will do multiple things, and I will create, if I can serve 5 clients today, I will be able to serve 20 because I'm more productive. And I think for me, my own personal motivations, I would like to pause and use those 4 hours for what I think is really the purpose of human life, which is evolution and which is really finding our purpose. And I think for me, I would like to spend those 4-5 hours, the extra hours that I have, and I would urge all of you to think about that as well, is that how can I spend that time to connect with my authentic self, to really start that inner journey on what is my purpose in life, why am I here, whatever that could be. But I think it opens up that ability for us to do that. Today, we don't have that time because we're in the run to make sure that the bills get paid, the work gets done, I'm able to just keep my head above water. But if I'm able to do all of that, and from a place of abundance, because I think that's where AI will take us, and then I have that time, and what do I really want to do with that time?
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Pragya Misra.
Thank you so much.